Welcome to Meeshla's YouTube channel. My name's Brittany and we are on the third lesson of Stitch It Together, a series about learning how to crochet. So last couple of lessons we learned what we needed to crochet, how to do a slip knot, and how to hold our hands while we're crocheting, our hand placement, and then the chain, which is the foundational stitch of any crochet project. And today we're going to learn single crochet, which once you learn, you'll be able to crochet a blanket, you'll be able to crochet scarves, and really anything you want to do. Single crochet is foundational to any crochet project. So let's get started. So I switched to a different yarn than I had last time. The dark blue, I really love that color, but for the camera it wasn't showing the stitches as much as I needed for teaching purposes. So for ease of use, we're using this yarn, which is also Pound of Love by Lionheart. And if you remember, I said that sometimes I roll the yarn into different little balls, so it's a bit easier to manage than the huge skein of yarn. So that's what I did with this yarn, and I really like this yarn too. Very pretty. Last time we chained 16 chains, and that's what we have here. Now you can see that there are little V's, in a sense, going throughout the chain. And you can kind of see why it's called a chain. So this is the front with the V's, and the back has the line down it. So when you're working with a project and starting it off, you're going to want to see those V's, not the back, the V's. A single crochet needs 2 extra chains, and it's actually going to be the first stitch of your project. So if you see that, kind of pops up, and you can see that it's the first stitch, and that's what we're going to use to grow our project. So we chain 2 and pop it up like that, and we're going to skip this first chain. So 1, 2, 3, and then dive into that 4th chain so that we have 2 loops on the top. And now you can see why you don't want to have tight chains, why you want to keep them loose and kind of keep them being able to, move on the crochet hook, is because you have to dive into them. And if they're really tight, it's really hard to do that, and you have to wrestle with them. So let's just do that again. So right now we have a total of 18 chains, and we want our project to be 16 stitches. So we pop this up, skip this 3rd one because we don't want to add an extra stitch in there, since this is our first stitch. If we chained into this one, or if we made a stitch into this one, it would be 17 stitches long, and we only want 16. Okay, so we dive into that 4th chain, and just like we did in the past, we have our index finger and our thumb holding the chain, and it just naturally yarned over when we dove in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, dive, yarn over, and then you pull through. Yarn over, pull through 2. So now you have 1 stitch, 2 stitch. Let's do that again. Dive, it's yarned over, pull through. You have 1, 2 loops on your crochet hook. You're going to yarn over. Now you have 3, pull through 2. So when you finish a stitch, you just want this 1 loop on your crochet hook. Dive, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. dive, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Dive, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Now for every V, every chain, you just want 1 stitch. This will keep your project being 16 stitches. Dive, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Dive, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Dive, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And you're going to work that all the way down your project. It's going to feel really awkward at first, and that is totally okay. It felt really odd for me when I first began. I first started crocheting when I was 8 years old. My mom taught me, and I'll share that first project with you guys at the end of these lessons. It's really a wonderful memory and a great testament to, how this end one can be a bit of a pain sometimes. Anyways, a testament of where you can go when you practice. And it's just a wonderful memory for me of my mom and I. But anyways, now we have our 16 stitches here. And we have our first row of our project. So stitches make up a row, and a row grows the project. Now, say you want to take a break from crocheting, just pull that yarn, make that loop, so that if somehow the yarn gets bumped and rolls away, then it pulls the loop out and not your project. But we're going to make that loop right now just to be able to count our stitches. So there's a couple ways you can count. I prefer to count by the stitch themselves. It's a little harder with single crochets. Double crochets, as you'll see a little later, are a little bit easier to count with the stitch itself. But sometimes it's just easier to count the V's, and you see that at the top of the single crochet are a bunch of V's now. So you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Now if your project does a little twirl like that, that's totally normal. It will straighten out once the project grows a little bit. So now we're just going to practice doing our single crochet by adding another row. If you remember in the beginning of this lesson, we added 2 more stitches to our chain to make 18 chains, but those 2 stitches curled over to make our first stitch of the row. So we're just going to do that again. We're going to chain 2. As you can see, the chain really is the foundational stitch of crocheting. Not only is it anchoring the whole project, but it grows the whole project. So once you learn that chain, you know the most basic foundational stitch of crocheting. All right, so to grow this project, we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to turn our project. So if you're a right-handed crocheter, you always work from right to left. If you're a left-handed crocheter, then you work left to right. But I'm a righty. So, like we did in our chain, we're going to skip this first stitch. We're not going to do a crochet there because it's represented in our chains, our 2 chains. And so we're going to skip this first one, dive into that second stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Dive, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Dive, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And again, we're doing 1 crochet stitch, 1 single crochet in every loop, in every hole there. Now, what does it look like if you do 2 crochets in 1 stitch? It's also, again, easier to see with the double crochet, but you can see all of these ones are nice and uniform, and then this one kind of looks tilty because there's 2 stitches in 1 hole. So you can probably see that. So if you do 2 stitches in 1, you just very gently pull out that first stitch that's by mistake in another stitch's hole, and then you just dive into the next one. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And you just continue this all the way down. Alright, so we have 16 stitches in our second row. Row 1, row 2. We're going to pull that loop out and we're going to count to make sure that we have those 16 stitches. Alright, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. You can see the ends are nice and even already, even though there's just 2 rows. So I'm going to show you real quick what it looks like if you do not keep your rows even. So I'll go into a little more explanation to this piece in a minute, or more of in the next lesson probably. But we have our single crochets. These are double crochets, which is what we're going to learn in our next lesson. But as you can see, it's kind of jagged, right? It's not nice and smooth, and that's because we did 4 rows of 16 stitches and then missed a stitch in this row, in row number 5, and so it made that jagged end right there. So we want to just make sure that we count our stitches and make sure that there are 16 stitches in every row. Now, just like the little example project I just showed you, we're going to make 5 rows of single crochet, and that's just going to grow it, and that's really to be able to practice how to do a single crochet. So I would highly suggest you practice your single crochet and you do 5 rows. We already had 2. We're working on row number 3, and we're going to grow it to 5. So I will see you when we have 5 rows. Today we learned how to grow our project with a single crochet and how to hold the yarn in a way that will keep the tension and the tightness of the stitch, the way that will keep the whole project uniform. And whether or not you knew that you learned that, just by the way that you were holding your hands and getting used to how the yarn feels, you were learning. So great job, you guys. We will see you for the next lesson where we learn how to double crochet.